Hi everyone, today we're talking about whether you should access your super early. It's a government initiative here in Australia to help people get through these tough times with regards to COVID and the money aspect of things. But is it a good thing? Is it beneficial or should you steer clear? More in this video. For those of you that haven't met me, my name is Angela. I am your money messenger. My background is in financial planning. I've been working in that industry for over 20 years here in Australia. I help financial planners to put together recommendations for their clients, which detail strategies about how to repay debt, save money, invest for retirement, protect with insurances. And we come up with strategies that teach clients how to use their money in a smarter way to eliminate financial stress and have a better life. Now in this video, we're talking about whether or not you should access your super early. It's a huge question on a lot of people's mind. It's one of the government initiatives that's here in Australia to help people get through these financially tough times during COVID. Whilst COVID is ravaging the country and the world as we know it, from a health aspect, it's devastating, but from a money side of things, it can be equally as devastating. Health aside, here on the Money Messenger channel, we talk about money. So we're talking about the financial casualty of this virus. Because of that casualty, the governments have recognised that people are going to go through some economic tough times, times like we have never seen before. To help people get through these tough times, last financial year, the government in Australia here announced that people could access their super early and potentially withdraw $10,000 last June and also $10,000 in July. Now that's been extended through to September because with second waves and whatnot occurring with the virus, the governments have realised that this is going to be a prolonged economic downturn. Now this initiative is not available for anybody and everybody. It depends on your work. It depends if you're still working, if you're receiving JobKeeper, JobSeeker. There's a whole list of requirements that you can easily find out. Just Google it online whether you can access your super or not. But essentially you need to be receiving some kind of government assistance, whether it be JobSeeker, JobKeeper. Now, one of the questions that people ask me regularly, and it's pasted all over the internet as well, is should you access your super early? The government's allowing you to do it, but what does that mean? Is it a good thing? Sounds too good to be true. When considering whether this is right or wrong for you, you need to consider the short-term implications and also the long-term implications. Short-term, you could get your hands on 10 to 20 grand and either put that towards bills, mortgage repayments, and all the necessities that you must pay and perhaps you can't right now because you've lost your job, you found that your income has been dramatically decreased. That is what the program is designed for. And if you're in that situation, that is why the government's offering this to you. However, there will be a lot of people that are not in that situation. Perhaps things are not that dire. And also people that are wondering if they should take it out and perhaps buy a property, use it as a home loan deposit. So let's talk about the long-term ramifications first, because this is the part that jumps out at financial planners and people that give retirement investment advice. This is the long-term ramifications of you accessing $10,000 to $20,000 of your retirement savings. Now, if you withdraw $10,000, by the time you retire, which say if you're in your mid-20s, that could be 40 some years away. By the time you retire, that $10,000 with interest and market returns compounding over 40 years, that $10,000 could be worth in excess of 6 figures by the time you retire at, say, age 67. For example, $10,000 in today's dollars, assuming a 5% return, over 40 years could be worth $70,000. Now that $70,000 could even be a lot more because you don't just have $10,000 put into your super fund and then it stops. Contributions are constantly going in from your employer or yourself and multiplying and compounding over time. So that $70,000 could even be more like $100,000 by the time you retire. So the main problem with taking out $10,000 now, a relatively small amount in the scheme of things compared to what it could be by the time you retire, that is a huge alarm bell for people when it comes to retirement savings. Now, one of the problems is that a lot of people, particularly if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, not really too concerned about retirement. Not really at the forefront of your thoughts. It's such a long time away. You'll worry about it later. But you can see that with compound interest, which is a game changer when it comes to making money and creating wealth, that can really rattle your end retirement pot by the time you get to 67. If you have less super in your fund by the time you retire, it can have dire effects on when you can retire and the type of lifestyle that you can expect to enjoy in retirement. That $100,000 potentially that you might miss out on will really make a difference to the type of retirement you have. You might need to work longer. You might need to scale back the amount of travel you do or the income you have. You could potentially even have to then rely on the age pension, which is not a great retirement. It's not a lot of money and definitely not your first choice when it comes to retirement. So the other part about accessing your super, the negative point of view, not only will you miss out on your retirement savings in the future, but you're essentially selling something now when markets are down. You're selling an investment at the bottom of the market, essentially. Markets have dropped by up to 30% of the recent few months. They've come back a little bit of late, but something that is worth $10,000 now, for example, was a few months ago worth $13,000, up to 30% more. So if you had $13,000 to your name a few months ago and somebody offered you $10,000 for it now, would you take it? Would you sell? You wouldn't sell any other asset when prices were low, so why would you dip into your own retirement savings? So we've talked about the long-term ramifications of touching your super now, as in you could have potentially, if you take out $10,000 now, $70,000 less at retirement, probably more like $100,000 less at retirement. If you take out the full 20% that's available, you could be missing out on $200,000 by the time you retire or more. You'll also be selling when markets are down. So taking out $10,000 now, that $10,000 was essentially worth 20 to 30% more a few months ago. So let's consider the short-term implications and give you some suggestions on other things that you could do in place of touching your long-term retirement savings. Number one, consider what government assistance is out there, whether it be JobKeeper or JobSeeker. If you go onto the MyGov website or to the MoneySmart website, you can definitely see all the other government initiatives that have also been released as part of the government stimulus package to get you through these tough times. You could apply for a hardship loan through your bank or another provider. However, I would strongly just steer away from that because the last thing you would be taking on is more debt right now. And hardship loans, I can only imagine the types of interest rates or the terms and conditions that are applied to those. In times of hardship, it's about buckling down and not taking on additional financial commitments in terms of bad debt, personal loans, hardship loans, even racking up the credit card if you can avoid it. If you have emergency savings, now's the time to use it. This is what an emergency is. If you don't have emergency savings, and we have seen that a lot of people in Australia do not have emergency savings, then that's something in the future for you to consider. Once this is all over and our incomes go back to somewhat normal and there's normal lifestyle and income and earnings, emergency savings is what you need to get on top of and established. For those of you that do have some, this is exactly what it's for. Using cash now will be the cheapest way for you to get through this instead of touching something as your super or racking up debt which has interest attached. Contact utility companies or anybody that you pay bills to. Contact them and ask for a price reduction. Ask them for a payment plan. You can definitely pay your bills over time instead of having to pay them all at once. If you are considering accessing your super, but you don't actually need the full $10,000 or $20,000, then don't take the full amount. Take what you need. The limit is $10,000, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to take the full $10,000. If you're going to take the full $10,000 and then spend half of it on your bills and whatnot, mortgage, and then blow the rest on other bits and pieces, then you're going to shoot yourself in the financial foot. You'll go backwards because what you're going to spend your money on, you're going to take it out of an investment that was growing for you, and then you're going to end up buying stuff, spending on stuff that will potentially go down in value. So taking from something that goes up to replace with something that goes down does not make financial sense. Now, I have been asked by some people, if I touch my super now, what's wrong with that so long as I repay it? Well, my thoughts with that is, in Australia, there's a growing debt crisis, Put coronavirus crisis aside, Australians have a problem with debt. We see a lot of people spending more than they earn with growing debt. So majority of times people say they will do something, whereas they don't when it comes to money. You say you might repay your super, chances are you probably won't. Just going off past history, what we see with regular Aussies. I've also been asked, what's wrong with touching my super now if it's a chance for me to buy a property? A lot of people, particularly these days with prices of houses as high as they are in Melbourne and Sydney and the like, and people often living above their means and not actively saving towards a home loan deposit for as long as it takes, which is sometimes several years, many people are seeing that accessing your super now could be a way of potentially getting a home loan deposit, or at least a big chunk of your home loan deposit. If you then have a partner who also accesses their super, your money together totaling up to $40,000 could be a huge chunk of a property deposit. So people that have asked me this, their thought has been, I'm taking out my super, which is not potentially great, but I'm then going to put it into another asset that will grow over time, which is very different from then just spending it on stuff and bits and pieces. So yes, that does have some benefits. You are taking money from an asset and putting into another asset. Whether that's a positive or negative will depend. Will your property, your home, grow in value between now and retirement more than your superannuation would have? Problem is, you don't really know that. We don't have a crystal ball, and there are so many different factors when it comes to property investing and even superannuation as well. Where's the suburb? What type of house? What demographic lives in that area? What's the driving economic factors? So at the end of the day, should you touch your super? Short answer, no, I wouldn't. I think the long-term ramifications of accessing your retirement savings now are too great to fix short-term problems. If you are in dire financial stress, which is why this initiative was released by the government, then I've mentioned some other things that you can do to do as a first port of call before touching your super, which is quite a final decision. Once you've pulled it out, it's very hard to put it back in and not ever lose some money. So I'm very much against doing any financial decision that will leave you financially worse off. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you got some value out of this video. Please don't forget to subscribe. I don't want you to miss a thing when it comes to these new videos that I'm releasing. And if you've got any comments or questions, pop a comment in the comments box or reach out to me at www.moneymessenger.com.au. You can't control everything in life, but you can control your money. So stay tuned for the next video. Thanks for joining me. Bye.